Did you really? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Gotta have fun somehow.
I'm sorry, buddy. Guys, have a great show.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
All right, 30 seconds.
It only works in the left, so if you want to take out the right.
All right.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. It is a beautiful, I don't know if we've just totally skipped fall, I think.
I think so, yeah.
If you are driving around in the high country up here, it's brown, and we've missed the colors. But anyway, we're not going to start the show off by complaining. I love the cool weather. But want to give a shout out to our sponsor. The show sponsor for Recovery Talk is Freedom Auto Tech. Man, it was busy at Freedom Auto Tech yesterday. I went and stopped by there. There was a garage full of cars. But they're still ready to give you a hand if you have some car needs. So give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. They have all the latest gear over there to get you running right if you got a check engine light. And I want the public to know that all the proceeds from Freedom Auto Tech go to support men's recovery here in the high country by supporting the program at Freedom Farm Ministries. If you are listening to the show this morning or watching and you're interested in giving a call, give us a call at 828-262-1567. That's 828-262-1567. Don't get nervous, my guests. We rarely get phone calls, but I always wanted to leave it out there. This morning, we actually have some unique guests with us. I've never on the show had guests that were in the program, Freedom Farm, and at the stage you guys are in. These are my friends Josh and Cody, and they have just recently graduated phase 2 of the 3-phase program at Freedom Farm. Phase 2 is a 40-day foundational portion of the program that guys, after being in phase 1, which is really just a safe place for guys to come, let their faculties kind of catch up a little bit, get some rest because of where they were, the way they were living and where they were coming from. So they go to phase 1, and after a minimum of 30 days. How long were you guys at phase 1? Do you know?
30 days.
30 days, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was there for a week longer than him, so,
Okay,
37, 40 days.
Okay, so after that, you guys, that's when, so you guys have been here approximately 80, 90 days,
Right,
okay? But yesterday we were doing our orientation, then moving into the 3rd phase, and it just kind of struck me. I said, hey, you know what? And you guys interested in come over and maybe being on the radio this morning? And we had a couple volunteers, so I really appreciate you guys being here this morning. So the way that we usually, share stories and whatnot, and I was telling you guys a little bit before the show, was if you don't mind sharing a little bit with us. How old are you guys? I forgot your ages.
I'm 35.
35.
I'm 30.
30. So 30. I was 35 when I came up. So
Yeah, I remember that part.
I know it looks like I'm still 35,
Right.
but for those of you on the air, I'm not lying. So anyway, but anyway, you know what? There's people out there watching. There's people listening. Right now, I have my aunt down in Florida is living. She said it's 70 degrees down in South Florida this morning. It was 42 this morning. So that's what it was in my car. But anyway, you got people watching, listening, and the show's description is hope and help for the hurting. So there's people out there, guys. What was life like for you in your active addiction? Anyone wants? Yeah. Do rock paper scissors. So.
I got it. For me, it was like what I would say hell on earth almost. It was really bad, and I kept trying to make myself think that I was doing something right when I wasn't I was justifying using, and I don't ever want to go back there, and thankfully I don't ever have to.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was everything. My whole story started out with pain medication. which is a lot. From my understanding, a lot of people start out with pain medication, and it was just overprescription for me, and I was abusing it, and so that started at 15. Here I am, 35, and it took a while, but it progressed into harder things, and it got bad.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You were prescribed pain medication for an injury, weren't you?
I was prescribed it for I have a immune system disease called hidradenitis, and they prescribed it. It basically, it's like a skin disease kind of thing. Like it'll pop up boils on my neck or anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, and so they prescribed pain medication for me, and then I'd take those, as needed, and then I'd have to go get it done again, and I progressively kept getting more and more and more and more, and it was to where I didn't notice it, but then when I started to notice it, I didn't care. I just wanted more, and I found myself like just going and making up a story that would fit, to be able to get the pain meds. And then when they sent me to a pain clinic where they prescribe you like hundreds at a time instead of 30 or whatever like they used to, that was when it really took off, and they basically prescribed me whatever I wanted. All I had to do was ask.
So you got started by having a disease, and they prescribed you pain medication, and you grew from there. What about you, Cody?
It was a long time of drinking. I thought I was a functional alcoholic. Smoked weed. I felt really good about myself. I thought I had it justified that I didn't do anything serious. I got really deep into my drinking, just not even realizing it, kind of at different times. And my life just kept getting worse and worse and deeper in a hole. And the last 6 months before I came here, it just, everything that I said I would never do, and how I was really judgmental and against people doing serious stuff, because I thought I was better doing, just drinking and smoking weed. I fell right into that. I went straight to, I got introduced to crack, and then I quit that easily. It was just not appealing, spending so much money. And then I was in Florida at that time. I came back to Ohio, and my first couple days, somebody introduced me to meth, and I had it justified that I didn't get high off of it. I was doing it for work. So it got really deep. Until I got here and got through this second part of the program and got the joy back in my heart, and then the third phase, once I got my phone back and saw pictures of me, and just, it is wildly embarrassing. I just saw myself, and I thought I was okay. I thought I was fine, and I really looked like that.
When would you say yours started? Around age. It doesn't have to be exact, but like just basic drinking and maybe smoking marijuana to excess.
Smoking marijuana was in high school, probably 10th grade, and I had done it before a couple times, but then drinking, I really got into it at 21. It was my everyday. I didn't realize how much of an everyday thing I had made it. So.
And you had the attitude, like you were explaining, it's kind of like, I don't have a problem. I'm better than all these other losers that do all this other stuff. I just smoke weed and drink. That's all I do, even though things were probably out of control, you could probably say. But yeah. How about you, Josh? Would you say that you kind of knew pretty quick after the pain management clinic, or would you say that you still felt it was pretty normal that I got a problem, I go to the doctor and I get medication,
That's pretty much how I justified it. I felt like it was normal because it was prescribed to me, you know, and I thought I was relatively good at hiding it, which I wasn't. But come to find out later, everybody knew, but nobody said anything because people are scared to say something about. Some people are scared to say something about people's problems.
Yeah, I find that to be true too, and it's interesting. That's what Cody was just sharing with us. He said that he got back in on the phone, and you start to realize how obvious, how bad it actually was when you're looking at, stuff. You just don't realize in the moment. You know, I mean, you're seeing yourself in the mirror every day, and you just don't realize the changes that are happening. A lot of times. And this is just some kind of way to relate it, but people struggle losing weight. I never struggle with weight, but that's a lie. But anyway, it's hard to lose weight because you're if you're exercising and eating right, it's just you seeing yourself in the mirror every day. You don't see the changes really until you've had like maybe a break away from doing that for a while. So like you're 80, 90 days from seeing yourself back then, and now you're being faced with yourself from a few months ago, and this can be pretty shocking. I know my wife's found some pictures of me from, I don't know where she got them, but somewhere. When you're married, you get this stuff that just like they're in rooms and boxes, and where did those come from? Like, I don't know. They followed you here, so she's gone through it and found some stuff though. So Josh, you're progressing. How many years would you say going to the doctor and all that? Years and years and years.
Probably 15 years.
But functional, like keeping
More
life
or less.
together.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
And you were the same way. You were fairly functional. Would you say you had a job and kind of in your mind you're like, hey, you know what? I mean, at least I'm not like robbing people. At least I eat on a regular basis. I sleep somewhere on a regular basis. I mean, everything else is pretty dysfunctional, but at least life is moving. And I'm still not sleeping in a car or something like that at this point. Yeah. But that quickly changes for you. When the Florida started, we're gonna probably pick up on that here in just a minute. We're coming close to a break. But being a little bit different in age, how about at any time during it, be thinking about when we come back, be thinking about. Was there any times where there were pauses like, hey, I need to do something, and maybe some attempts at trying to get sober or clean? Because that's usually typical of people. They get some attempts here and there at sobriety, some realization as the end is coming. But stay with us. We're going to be back in just a few minutes.
All right.
You guys are doing great. So, I don't know, how long is this break?
3 minutes, maybe 4.
Yeah, 3 minutes. So, but everybody can still hear us on Facebook Live, so don't say anything bad about your mom or dad or
I wouldn't do
family
that.
members or anything like that. So.
Pulled my ID out of my pocket and looked at it. You wouldn't think it's me.
Really?
You want to see it?
Yeah. I have a good friend of mine.
I showed it to Cody. He was like, dude, that doesn't even look like you.
Whoa!
3 years ago. Wow. Almost to the day. I was like, I don't want to show that to anybody.
Wow, man. Wow.
That.
You don't have to be like that anymore.
That's exactly what you were just saying, though. Like, I didn't realize, and I just realized it like 2 days ago that that's what I used to look like. Probably worse when I came up here. Like, that 2 months. The 2 months I had in jail, fattened me up a little bit and sobered me up a lot.
I have a friend that still lives here, went through the program, and he used to put a picture on the refrigerator at his house of what he looked like. And it was scary. He looked 30 years older and emaciated, just completely emaciated.
I remember when he came here.
Yeah,
I helped him get his stuff out of his life out of his mom's vehicle. He was like, you were probably 40 pounds less or more. 85 pounds is how much you gained.
85 pounds.
What? Really?
I've gained like 30, 40 pounds since I've been there. I was like 177. I'm almost 220. I hold it well, right?
We treat him like livestock at the program.
Hey,
whatever works.
Feed us.
probiotics and steroids in the food.
Ham.
I just
They put it on the ham.
at all.
We feed them trough
As
style.
long as y'all don't get the mad cow or anything like that.
Yeah.
Mad pig, more like.
Yeah.
I like it. Ham, and more ham.
And minor oral surgery. Call Appalachian New River Veterinary Associates today and ask about preventive dental care at ANRVA.com.
Yeah, I feel like such a tool wearing these sunglasses. I absolutely hate it.
Hello, this is David
Like,
Lusk, candidate for
I hardly ever wear these. Like anyway, I had to dig them out of my car because they're like, "Do you want any sunglasses for the day?" I'm like, "No, I should have some in my car."
Oh man, own them.
The last thing
cool.
my goal isn't to look cool. It's just to get through the day. Hopefully, I don't have to wear them tonight. Actually, no. Then I can get along with the old people in serving booze too. They could be like, "Why are you wearing sunglasses?" Cataracts.
Cataracts. There you go.
Watson Auto Western
All right,
World
30
in
seconds.
Downtown Boone is ready for crisp mornings and cool evenings with a new shipment of lightweight vests and jackets for men, women, and children from Cinch and Ariat.
Need to go check that place out.
Available, new waterproof jackets by
So I need to go
Wrangler.
check that place
Ariat
out.
skinny jeans look amazing with the fall fashions from Ariat. Watsonada's new lightweight
All right,
ponchos
here we
are
go.
easy to wear with any
5,
fall outfit.
4,
Go see them.
3,
You haven't been to
2.
Boone if you haven't been to Watsonada Western World.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. We have Josh and Cody with us. Just wanted to give a shout out though to Freedom Auto Tech, who is the official show sponsor. Taking your calls right now, lining up appointments to fix that car. If you got any kind of engine trouble or suspension or brakes or whatever your auto needs are, they're ready to help you out. 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. If you're listening and you'd like to ask Cody or Josh or myself or Mike, the producer of the show, is that what we call you, the producer?
I suppose.
That has to wear shades today because he's so cool.
No.
Actually, he's had some drops put in his eyes because he had to get cataracts. But I still think it's because he wants to look cool today. But anyway, he's willing to answer questions today too. So if you want to know anything from the oldest 25-year-old that exists in the high country, you can call in. That number is 828-262-1567. That's 828-262-1567. So guys, before we get to the point to where, kind of things stopped you to where you ended up here and the path you're currently on, tell us, was there any attempts? Was there any moments in life where, some people call them like moments of clarity, or was there any recovery programs? Was there any joining any recovery fellowships? Was there any help, or was there any desire or attempts at trying to get on the right track per se before coming here?
For me, I went to a state-funded place in Winston-Salem, and it's more like a 21, 28-day program. It's all secular though, and it wasn't bad. It got me clean. It kept going to meetings, AA and NA meetings. It helped me, and it kept me clean for 6 months. But it's like there was always something missing. And even before that, like I recognized, I might have a problem with this, and it was before it got real bad, which that's when it got bad, but every time you go back, it gets worse. And so I'd get caught, like, I'd fill a prescription and it'd be basically gone like the next day, and somebody'd be like, you just got this. And that's when it started being like, oh yeah, I know something's wrong, but I really didn't, I didn't think it was. I was still trying to justify it in my mind.
Right.
But I've gone to a couple of different recovery programs. I went to the same one 5 times, and obviously it didn't do what it needed to do. Now I'd also go to like the hospital just to detox, because so that I didn't feel that pain, because there's a lot of opiate addicts out there. It's just they don't want to be sick.
Right.
They're maintaining. You know what I mean? And that's what I found myself doing a lot, was just maintaining.
And unfortunately, just on a side note, everybody's heard. I think it was yesterday they made the announcement that the opioid bill was passed and signed, and that's been in the works. It went through the houses of Congress, and so it was finally, and there was an announcement. And I don't like to be negative Nancy too much about people doing things for recovery. But I think it's a lot of well-intentioned, but just kind of misdirected, because what you're saying, a lot of opiates just don't want to be sick. They just made it very available now for opiate addicts to not be sick by widening the scope of the availability of buprenorphine, or the trade names or the specific names Suboxone and Subutex. They've widened the ability to get those prescriptions, to fund those prescriptions, by also widening the prescribers of it. So people that are nurse practitioners and physician's assistants are now going to be able to prescribe those for the next 5 years, put people on that drug. So, I'm sure they're going to have lots of what they may say success, lots of people signing up for it, because just like you said, they don't want to be sick. But here we got a guy that, like me, came from a pretty significant opioid addiction. How does Subutex? Do you have a good experience with Subutex or Suboxone, or know anybody that has?
As far as like the experience, it'll get you to where you're not sick, but it's not that. It's what you do afterwards to me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel the greatest even taking that, but at the same time, I'm not doing the greatest things to my body either.
Right.
At the same time,
so those medications alone probably aren't going to produce a lot of sober people.
In my opinion, no. It's just my opinion.
That's my opinion too. So, what about you, Cody? Attempts at recovery?
I never went to a recovery program. I know every time I would get in trouble, I'd go to jail or have a time of being sober, that I'd realize and I'd want to make that change. I'd feel great, I'd start to feel way better than I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to reiterate that I put a lot on my family. That I wasn't just completely functional. I thought I was in my head. I had it justified. I had a place to sleep and car to drive, and a lot of that was my family. So,
yeah.
But I was in a drug court. That was about the only recovery thing that I had to go to, and I pretty much faked it the whole way through. I was drinking. I stopped smoking weed, but after my meeting or after my drug test and breathalyzer test, I'd go to the bar, and so 3 DUIs later, kind of still didn't learn my lesson.
So that's pretty unique, and I did want to say something out there for those watching and listening. You may have loved ones that, like Josh here, has been to. You went to the same place 5 times. Did you go to other places too?
I'd go to like the behavioral health centers just to detox for a few days.
So like I went to multiple places, and I actually I have my mom's watching right now. Hi, Mom. So she said good morning to everybody. She's saying good morning to you guys too. So
Good morning.
you too, Mike. But
No, I don't want to talk. It's your turn.
okay.
Right.
So a lot of people are like, they've been to these places and they've tried to get help, and none of it's working, and it's all. But I think I'm to the point now in my life, and I'm not saying that you have to be there too, but I look back on my attempts and failures as all being part of the final push over the line of success. And doesn't mean, but it also doesn't mean that you have to go through a whole bunch of recovery attempts and failures in order to ultimately find success. It's dangerous to get into a prescription of this is the way it's got to be for someone to get clean and sober. We all share an agreement of what needs to be at the center and the core of it, a relationship with God through Christ. But there's all these nuances when it comes to people getting help, and it's like, well, you know, they have to go to a dozen programs and fall in the, and they have to find their true bottom, and they have, you know, there's all these sayings that people have, and you know, I think they're all well-meaning. They're trying to give people comfort in the chaos, but you know, I guess I'm just to a point right now where I tread lightly when anybody starts talking about that kind of thing. So, secular Christian program, attempts and failures, playing the game and lying, it's all part of it. Because you know, at this point, you know, you're realizing you're full on admitting, and I'm proud of you. You know, you're admitting right now, it's like, hey, you know what? I said something about me being functional, but I wasn't. My family were supporting me so much that it looked, I was able to tell myself that, but you were telling yourself a delusion, you know, and you're able to actually literally admit as an adult, I was faking my way through a drug court, you know, I was doing this stuff. And so being able to admit that stuff out loud, being able to admit that I went to a place 5 times, and you know, it didn't seem to work, but just being able to get to that point in your life, that's huge. You know, it's honesty. That's one thing I did learn in 12-step meetings, rigorous honesty. You have to be honest, man. You have to be honest about your own thoughts, your own feelings, the way you think about things, the way that you've engaged in your environment and whatnot. I don't know, hope that my rambling that makes a little bit of sense.
No,
So,
it makes sense.
but we're getting close to another break here. How much time we got?
About 15 seconds.
About 15 seconds. So, for those of you listening, hang in there. We're going to be right back, and we'll pick up the story where we left off.
Information station, AM 1450 and 90.5
Nikki.
FM.
Nikki said she's so proud of you, Cody.
All right, play twice. That's fine.
Oh,
Computer man every time. No matter what I did.
you sure it's not the cool operator?
No, because, you know, I didn't really push any buttons other than one. So, does that every week.
Good morning, Janice. Hey, Gary.
Meanwhile, Attorney General Jeff Sessions addressed the suspicious packages. The Justice
Guys,
Department.
share the video. Are you on Facebook Recovery Time? Share the video around.
When I
Are you on
get-
Facebook?
Yeah, when I get my phone,
Okay.
it's up to Mike.
Uh,
He said he's got me today. I talked to him this morning.
okay.
He was like, "You going to the wood pile today?" I was like, "I'm going on the radio today." Told you that. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
I can take you there afterwards.
He told me don't worry about it. He's got Brad and Chris out there.
Okay. Gary's in Jupiter. All right. I heard it's nice down there. It's crisp 70 degrees.
We haven't had that in a hot minute.
Down in Florida, that's like winter.
Yeah.
What is?
70 degrees.
Oh, God. I wonder how old people feel the 70 degrees right now.
Yeah, I don't like being miserably hot. That's how Florida feels to me. It's just miserably hot.
It's nice in the winter.
Of course. A lot of people go from here to there.
Felony DUI manslaughter charges are pending against the driver of that vehicle, a 37-year-old Florida man. Troopers said he fled the scene.
You
on
out
foot,
fishing,
but
Gary?
was later arrested. I'm Josh Zach.
A middle school student is facing charges of
Oh,
stealing a
my mom said the
Gilbert
current
County
temperature in
school
North Palm is
utility
82
bus
now.
in Ohio
Wow.
yesterday. He's under arrest.
And it's only, what,
Listening to NCN
11 o'clock?
Gets hot up there quick.
Yeah.
Or down there.
Republican supermajorities in the North Carolina General Assembly? Will this year's election change the course of the state Supreme Court? What about all those constitutional amendments on the ballot? Carolina Journal will help you answer those questions.
Okay.
Available each month as a free newspaper.
Handle.
Online at carolinajournal.com. Carolina Journal, your #1 source for government news that affects you.
Apalachicola.
Visit carolinajournal.com
Love saying Apalachicola.
today.
Pretty weird word.
Season is here, and so is the
There's some weird towns in Florida, man.
Preview magazine. You can find it
By name or by the people?
That's one of the names, Apalachicola.
Yeah.
There's a town in North
Okeechobee.
Carolina called Altamahal.
Altamahal?
Yeah. It's got a racetrack there, a speedway. Used to build race cars for guys who raced over there.
I bet.
It's easy. Just go to ACCsports.com and click on the basketball preview banner.
Massive recall from Ford calling back nearly 1.5 million Focus compact cars in North America. The recall covers 2012 through 2018 model years with 2-liter 4-cylinder engines.
I don't drive. Not anymore.
That's awesome.
I will eventually. After a year. Well, like 9 more months.
Ford says until repairs can be made, owners of the
The way most people drive in this town, I kind of wish I didn't have to.
Public transportation around here is pretty reliable, though. And I'm staying up here regardless.
girl is in stable but serious
Kids are
condition
here.
at UNC Hospital.
Yeah.
The family dog attacked them. This happened on
Have you seen them?
afternoon, a few miles
Talked to
outside
them.
of Rocky Mount. Edgecombe County Sheriff
Everything will come in
Atkinson
town.
says the child's mother tried to stab the family's pit bull mix in order to stop the attack.
I wasn't talking to him, but like once every 2 weeks, maybe, up until we went to restoration. And you know, you got that 3 weeks where you can't use the phone. And I talked to him both weekends, so you know what I mean? So things are progressing.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Did I freak you out?
No, I wasn't sure if it was you or Jeremiah playing.
For whatever reason, I can't directly access that machine
Really?
through the Windows Explorer tree.
That's weird.
So I had to log in to get David Jackson's program to email.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he took remote control of this computer right here. So just some software that we have. You can, if you download it, you can play with any computer on the network.
Yeah, they do that to be able to fix computers and stuff without being on it.
Yeah. There's one job I had where one guy wanted me to download the same software so he can install some stuff on my laptop. I was like, I don't know you, man. I don't want you to do that. Alright, bad of me.
You know, my wife works with Jeremiah's mom.
Really?
At the hospital.
A buddy of mine, his girlfriend's dad used to teach Jeremiah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's who the guy doing the commercial here?
I don't know, you can't miss his voice for nothing.
Yeah. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Sounds nice.
Is he still doing commercials for y'all?
He still does his show.
Does he really?
Yeah, he does it from South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Tonight, overnight, the rain rolls in. Maybe a few flakes at the onset of the highest ridge tops, but no real snow. It's just rain tomorrow. And all day rain, in fact.
Right.
Temps staying a low to mid-40s all day. A little dreary to start the week as well. From severe
All right, 10 seconds.
Monday for High Country Radio.
This is
4, 3, 2.
96.5 FM.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. Our number to call, if you're interested in asking a question or something, is 828-262-1567. That's 828-262-1567. You can talk to me, Josh, Cody, and even Mike's fielding questions today. The sponsor of our show is a place called Freedom Auto Tech. They are one of the newest auto shops here in town. All the profits from this auto shop, which makes this place unique, go to support men in recovery. So if you got a car problem, it's a professional shop. We don't have a whole bunch of the guys from the program working on your cars. It's actually people that we've hired. So 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. If you got an issue with your car, give them a call. They'd like to fix you up. So we're back, guys. You have shared, trying to get a little bit of help. You've shared some of your experience. I know there's lots more details we can go into. The damage and destruction that just comes along with substance abuse. So lead us up to what happened to kind of bring you to where you're at now, or to bring you to where you came from. you're from Ohio, but were you in Florida when you came up here, or were you back in Ohio?
No,
you were back in
Yeah,
Ohio.
went back to Ohio.
Okay. And you didn't come from too far away, a couple hours?
Winston. Yeah, it's like an hour and a half.
Okay. So why don't you tell us, like, kind of the dynamics that brought you to Freedom Farm, and yeah.
Well, for me, I basically got pulled over because and thank God I did, because I probably would have killed somebody in the state I was in, but I was in denial. Oh, I'm okay, I'm fine, you know. Didn't pass the field sobriety test at all, and I got locked up, and you know, I called my family to get bailed out, assuming that they would do it, and what they did was probably the best thing they ever did. They left me there. And you know, I never thought they would.
You never thought they would leave you there?
Right, but they did, and I'm grateful for it. You know, I didn't want to have to detox in jail and be there for 2 months, but I was. And, you know, hindsight, I'm grateful that they did. But while I was there, I had looked up coming here before I even thought about, I mean, before I was locked up or anything. And I mentioned it to my dad, and he looked into it and got in touch with you, and I did the interview with you on the phone, and came up here the day after I got out.
That's right. The amazing Todd was on vacation, I think.
Yeah.
And I actually did your interview. I remember that. Talked to
Yes,
your
you
dad
did.
first. So let me ask you something. I'm going to push on that a little bit, because this is just a common thing we talk about here on the radio all the time. But and I'm in these conversations all the time on the phone and on a personal level with family members. Tough love. So your parents showed you a little tough love. Now, did you communicate to them on the phone while you're in jail the whole time?
Yeah.
Were they
pretty
mean
much
to
every
you?
day. No.
Were they telling you how much they love you and want you to get help?
Yeah.
But they said that we're not taking you out
They
until
said-
you've...
Basically what they said is, I'm afraid to get you out. I don't want you there.
That's right.
But I'm afraid to get you out because of what you'll end up doing. And I was like, no, doing everything I could do to convince them.
So a beautiful example in my experience of I've had a lot of parents. Okay, someone like you is in jail. Call up mom and dad, and you just said it. I didn't think they'd leave me in here. They all think the same thing. They tell them, you need to get me out. Parents say, no, I don't think so, and then they bully them, on the phone,
Right, yeah.
or they passively make them feel, tell them like, oh, it's terrible in here. There's drugs everywhere here. I'm getting just as high as I was. They say things like that, and the parents are like, oh, I got to get him out of jail, and then they go and they get him out of jail, and then. But what did you just say? It was the best thing they ever did.
Right.
Even though you probably didn't think of that at the moment.
Not at all.
Probably they're being nice, but that's the other thing. Okay, the tough love doesn't mean like when you're calling them and they're saying, stop calling me, figure it out, you're on your own. They're saying, look, we got a plan here. I don't know what it looks like, but you're in a safe place. I'm not getting you out until we get you into a recovery program.
Matter of fact, that's what my dad said. He said, you're in a safe place. I know you're not going to hurt yourself, and so you'll be fine. Just tough it out. You know what I mean? And it's basically, it wasn't until I said, fine, I'll do whatever it takes. I will. You know what I mean? I'm done with doing what I was doing. I got to do something different.
I honestly, there's a movie coming out soon. It's called Beautiful Boy. It's got one of the Anchorman actors. I forgot his name. He played. It's the Office guy. What's his name?
Guy who played Michael Scott, Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. Steve Carell is playing a father of a son with substance abuse. And I heard on NPR. I'm a big NPR nerd. I listen to it all the time. But I was listening to it, and it's based on this memoir written from a father and a son, and the son went through addiction and all that stuff. And literally, I was kind of beside myself. The father is being asked by the interviewer on NPR, it's like a half-hour show, saying, what about this tough love thing, He said, well, let me tell you, my son was on the street living in his car, and he kept calling and saying, let me come back home, Dad, let me come back home. And he said, and I left him. He said, you know what, son, I will come pick you up but I'm going to pick you up to take you to a recovery program. He said, I'm not picking you up to take you home. And his son kind of like stayed out there for like a week, and then finally said, okay, I'm ready to go. Went to a recovery program. It was he had gone multiple. And he finally got sober. Okay, that was what the dad shared. And then the interview said, well, in your book you said that you regret that decision. Why do you regret that decision? He says, because there's just no point in doing things like that. He said, if I had to do it over again, I would have picked him up. And they're like, but it got him into recovery. And he goes, yeah, but he could have died. And it was just like, this guy doesn't make any sense. It was like the thing that got his son into recovery. I don't know. I was like disturbed about it the whole night, because here this guy's on public radio getting all this publicity. They're making a movie out of it, and he regrets showing his son tough love and getting him into recovery. He said he would not do that again. Crazy. Anyway, so your parents, and what about you, Cody? How did you? What all happened with you?
Well, my parents showed me tough love when I was like 17, because I was just kind of a hardhead, and I acted like a hardhead. And they wanted me to call and say, please let me come back home, and I just didn't. I figured I could make it on my own, and I didn't the whole time. So once, about 6 months before I came here, I got into some serious stuff, and I went to Florida, thought I was getting away from it, got into it even more. I was homeless, sleeping in my car with my girlfriend, and I mean, it was just, I was doing things that I never thought I would do, like asking people for money at a gas station, and I mean, it would take me hours to ask two people, and just because I don't know. So when I came back to Ohio, I quit smoking crack, and got a job, started, somebody introduced me to meth, and I was working my butt off, and it just like, I sunk really deep. I stayed up for like 2 weeks straight working, thinking I was working, and fell asleep in my car, got a ticket, went to jail for 2 days, and they let me out, and then I just felt really bad, so I reached out, and my grandma let me stay with her. I was gonna go to rehab, trying to figure out where I was gonna go. I was trying to pack all my things, go through my things, and help out my grandma just for letting me stay there. And my first chance of freedom, I got to leave and go work on my storage unit, and I got some pills, and I don't know anything about pills, so I guess it was repressed with fentanyl, and I had already decided I wanted to go to rehab, but I was kind of tiptoeing, kind of stalling it, and 2 days before I came, I took 2 pills instead of 1, and I overdosed. I was working out in the yard, and all of a sudden I woke up, and there was an ambulance, and my whole family was freaking out, and it was, as much as I hate that it happened, and I'm so ashamed and embarrassed that it happened, it was everything that I needed to make fully in my heart, make this decision to get better, not just come here to suffice things, but to actually
say a pretty self-driven, hard-headed individual. Think that I don't need anybody. I can make it on my own. Living in your mind. So basically, we could say you just went through a significant, humbling process to where you finally had to come to terms with, no, I don't have anything together. I'm glad you survived it, my friend. I'm glad that you made it here. Hang with us. We're going to be back in just a minute, and we will finish this thing out. This is the final stretch, guys.
I'm good now. We can keep going. It's the initial walking in process.
This will be like a 12-minute period that we'll go through.
I feel bad about OD, and I've done it way too many times.
I was good before we walked in here. Now I'm all like messed up.
You messed up?
Serious flip-flops. Yeah, I wasn't good.
You're
now I'm
doing fine, Cody.
Hey, you're doing good.
It's
Doing
just
great.
emotional, crazy.
Yeah, but your story might help somebody, man. That's the whole reason I'm doing it.
I see those traits in Travis Critcher, who's running for Watauga County Clerk of Court.
I'll do it every week if you want me. I can be your new co-anchor. Jim and Josh again. Hey, what's up?
Urge you to vote for Republican Travis Critcher for Watauga County Clerk of Court. I'm Coach
After we get the willpower caught up, of course.
Yeah.
Picture for clerk.
All right, 1 minute.
Mike said that the guy that's been delivering us wood found a whole bunch of oak or something like that. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah,
I need to talk to him about that.
He asked me if I was going today, and he said, just don't worry about it since I'm doing this. So I'll be out there tomorrow and probably Saturday, which is fine. I need something to do.
There's Margaret and Meredith and Lisa all watching. Paul DeVivo's there. What's up, Paul? My sister said you're very brave. Thank you for sharing your stories. My mom said you're both doing great.
Thank you.
One of the best programs so far.
Awesome.
All right, 15 seconds.
And students get 15% off if they show their student ID at the location in Boone at Watauga Village Shopping
All
Center.
right, here we go in 5, 4,
You're not eating Fuego
3,
Nuevo,
2.
you're just not eating real Mexican food.
And we're back with Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. We've been spending our time here with Josh and Cody. They've been sharing their stories with us. If you're interested in giving a call in to one of them, we're on the final stretch. We got about 12 minutes left of the show. 828-262-1567. That's 828-262-1567. Just last shout out to our sponsor, our show sponsors, Freedom Auto Tech. You just heard a commercial if you've been staying with us on the radio. If you're watching on Facebook, Freedom Auto Tech is a auto shop in here, a professional auto shop in town here, that all the proceeds go to help support the ministry of Freedom Farm, which is a 1-year program for men struggling with substance abuse. But if you got a car problem, they're ready to fix it. 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. So Josh was in jail. Parents weren't going to get him out until you agreed and honestly agreed to go. And
Right.
you can say you honestly were like, okay, I'm ready for a program. Hey,
Right.
how long did you spend in jail?
I was in there for 60 days.
60 days.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Cody, a little bit of a different story. You had to find a bottom, your bottom, I guess you could say, where you actually started to feel that I was not in control. You lost confidence in your ability to do life. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were ready for a program. I think I interviewed you too, didn't I?
Yeah.
I interviewed both of you guys. This is rare. So I'd like to say that that's the reason why you're successful, but that would be, yeah, that's not the reason. Yeah, that would be boasting, and it's not true at all. But anyway, but it's unique because I've stopped doing the interviews, the intake, probably 2 years ago. So anyway, so tell us about coming up here. What was going through your minds, if you can even remember. I mean, you know what? Coming from you had a break for 60 days, but you know, coming out of that mess, I mean, you probably couldn't remember what 2 + 2 was at that moment.
Yeah. I slept for the first 2 days, and then I saw everybody else. They were, you know, they had been there for a little while, at least a couple weeks, and I know I went to the house, man, and I told them, man, they're all laughing and joking and having a good time. I cannot picture myself having that kind of joy, or
So you came here, and because of the way you're feeling physically, mentally, all of that spiritually, you just felt that better was just totally out of your reach.
Yeah.
But you stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, my friend? I mean, I can imagine being at a place multiple times, having this thing in the back of my head, like, you know, I've done this before.
Yeah, like, is this really going to work? Yeah, I had that thought, but at the same time, I kind of just, on the ride, it was the ride up here. I love music. That's like my number one go-to for anything. And so I was listening to music all the way up here and just kind of had this calm about me, you know, which was kind of odd. But normally, like the me that I remember from back home is quiet, doesn't really talk at all, not really sociable. But ever since I've gotten up, ever since I came up here, I haven't been that person at all. I mean, all I do is talk. Most people are like, man, he talks a lot. I don't, like, when you asked me yesterday about talking, I was like, yeah, I talk a lot. You just don't know it. But yeah, I mean, like, it was.
Everybody's on their really best behavior around me. I kind of lose that connection with a lot of guys because
I'm always on my best behavior. But I mean, I don't know. It took a couple weeks for me to realize that God's been pulling at me to come back. Ever since I was given the choice. When I was like a teenager to either go to church or stay asleep. You know what I mean? And as a teenager, who's going to be like, oh, I'm gonna get up and I'm super tired. You know what I mean? Like, I slept in and quit going to church and stuff like that back when I was like 13 something. And just bits and pieces of my life. When I looked back on it, I was like, God was always there trying to pull me back. I just, was like, nah, maybe tomorrow. But the whole time I was in jail, I'd have random people coming up to me, like, asking me to read the Bible with them or read me Bible verses and stuff like that. And like I said, I didn't put anything together until I got up here. And it's been like a real surreal experience. And like, it's like the old becomes new. That's exactly who I feel like I am. Like, I'm starting to feel like I am the person who I was supposed to be.
Cody, when did it start to maybe turn around a little bit for you? Do you remember when, or?
Yeah, it was about 3 weeks into the safe house, and it was so much love, so much focus on God. I could just feel it, and it's the change from the first day of the safe house to right now. I'm like, I don't even recognize myself. Like, my mom said to me, like, she hasn't heard me laugh like this since I was a little kid. Just not, being so holding on to things that I didn't need to be holding on to. So, but I know.
And you grew a huge beard.
Yeah. Well, it was like,
yeah,
I cut it off before I came here.
So, tell us in our last 5 minutes together, what is your degree of hope right now? Where are we at mentally in your minds about life? That's a big question.
Right. For me, I'm just, it's one of the things I pulled from, your AA or NA programs, like one day at a time. I'm taking it one day at a time and thanking God for that day. And whatever comes of it, regardless if it's good or bad, I'm trying to put it in my heart that it's for a reason to help me grow closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I can honestly say I haven't felt this way before, so it's different. It's hard to explain, but it's in a good way, in a very good way.
And I love that 12-step programs pump that idea that it's a day at a time and get people to focus on that. But I do got to say that they didn't come up with this in the Bible too. So anyway, what are you worrying about tomorrow for? You know. So anyway, yeah, living in the day. That's a beautiful thing to start to learn. Tomorrow will come when tomorrow comes. What you have is before you today. That's what you have to deal with. It's a hard thing to do. So, what about you, my friend?
Well, I know for a long time I've been craving God. I've been begging somebody to come with me, and I have a really extremely loving family, but I've always felt so alone, and I don't at all now. I'm so close to God and to the fellowship that He's brought me, and it's amazing. I know that I have something to fall back on always when I'm confused or I'm angry or I'm upset, and I can go to my Bible and go to my brothers and communion, go to the church, and it's amazing that type of fellowship that I have now.
So you're saying something I kind of wanted to make sure I said. Me being a teacher, I always kind of. It's great that you guys have a great positive feelings right now, right? But feelings can't be what you put everything on, right? I mean, and that's what you're saying. Like, when the feelings aren't there, you have some rock solid foundational truth to go to, and you have other things to help you. It's not all about it just being happy-go-lucky all the time. One of Chris Harris told me, one of the things I used to tell everybody was, it's not rainbows and unicorns every day, right? What you guys hopefully are starting to learn is that life happens every day. Some days are great, some days are bad, right? But hopefully you guys are starting to learn that I'm getting and learning and experiencing how to deal with life as it comes, taking it one day at a time, learning to bring truth into my situations and in my experiences, and not having to disengage from things that are tough and running away to what I was doing, which was putting a substance in my body so that I could temporarily remove myself from tough things in life. You can make it through. Life is tough. Life is tough for everybody except for maybe Mike. I mean, he lives life wearing sunglasses. His future's so bright he's got to wear shades, right? So, but you know what, guys? I really appreciate you guys coming in here. We only got a less than a minute left. You guys are doing one of the things we try to promote to you guys at the program is that, if all this stuff is true about your life and your relationship with God, it can't be just that. You need to serve, and I want you to know that you are serving right now. I think you said it a minute ago. If sharing my story, when you're saying sharing my story, you don't know who you're helping, and that's true. I have somebody that's I don't know that's asking about the program right now as they're hearing your guys' story and getting a little maybe hope for a loved one. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us, man.
Anyway, we will be back next week, and we'll see who is my guest. Maybe I'll have a co-host. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for listening.
Have you
Good show,
ever
y'all.
been stuck in a tight
Can you
spot?
hand me the
Don't worry.
phone?
Colton's Body Shop and
Thanks, sir. You guys did great.